We tracked you down, Marina, here at the Capitol. We're here for another episode of ACLU on the Hill. Thanks for being here. Seems like a busy day.
Yeah, well, we're right in the thick of it, nearing the end of the third week, so things are moving.
All right, well, let's get to this quickly. We had a hearing 2 days ago for HB 243, the Warning Label Amendments bill in the House Judiciary Committee. Can you describe what happened at that hearing? You testified against that bill.
Yeah, so this is very typical, actually, of what can often happen when you're working on a bill. We were opposed to the original language, and basically as we were walking into the hearing, new language appeared. A substitute bill was dropped, and so sort of the scramble to quickly read through it, try and figure out what it means, adjust our comments, decide whether our position had changed, and be ready to, of course, speak to the bill, really in a matter of moments.
Just all on the fly, sitting there in the committee. Okay.
Right.
And that substitute changed the sort of what the bill was going after. It removed material harmful to minors and turned it into pornography, or using the definition of obscenity. Is that right?
Yeah, so a pretty substantial change in terms of the target of the bill. The language that would now be subject to a warning, or the material that would be subject to the warning, is now language and material that the Supreme Court of the United States has declared is devoid of any First Amendment protection. So definitely improves the bill in a meaningful way, but that is not to say that our concerns have been removed entirely. We still are very worried about the way in which this bill might still chill speech. And in particular, this bill allows for citizen lawsuits, and I think that's sort of one of the biggest problems that remains.
Gotcha. The term I've heard was vexatious litigation. People bringing lawsuits to an extreme that could shut down a business or drive them out.
Yeah, I think at the very least we can be sure this will be the impetus behind the creation of sort of a cottage industry. People who might make a business out of going around and suing, companies who are putting information out there that they think is objectionable.
Wow, another made in Utah type issue that we deal with here. Okay.
Right.
Let's move on to a Senate bill. That would be SB 102, Bigamy Amendments from Senator Deirdre Henderson. That bill's been getting some national and international attention. You did an interview with a French newspaper, I think, a couple days ago about this issue. Can you tell us what this bill would do? It's a somewhat dramatic change.
Yeah, absolutely. So what the bill would do would be to change the penalties for engaging in the practice of bigamy from quite a high criminal penalty down to an infraction, which essentially takes it sort of out of the criminal realm. There is still some hope that there might be a desire on the part of one of the legislative bodies to take it even further and decriminalize entirely.
Wow.
But in practice, I think that is the end result of Senator Henderson's legislation.
So I think it would take it from something like a third-degree felony in many cases and move it down to an infraction, which is not something that you actually end up in court most of the time with,
exactly.
right? Okay. And the rationale for doing this was, at least from Senator Henderson and some of the supporters of the bill, is that the criminality of bigamy had been used as sort of a way to control people within that environment. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's twofold. One was certainly that people were living in the shadows and were sometimes, suffering in sort of abusive relationships and environments, and felt fearful about coming forward to report that sort of crime and other problems because of the fact that they themselves were technically in violation of the law. I think the other piece of this is that a lot of law enforcement agencies had already practically decided not to prosecute bigamy, and so this was sort of a meaningless law in a lot of ways by having it on the books.
One of those laws that just has been kept around, but now there's a chance to actually reform it.
That's right.
Lastly, let's talk about a bill that you're actively lobbying for right now. That would be HB 69, Sick Leave Amendments, Representative Patrice Arendt. That's a bill that goes up in committee this afternoon, less than an hour. Tell us what you were just doing before you came here to talk to us.
Right. So I was out in front of the House gallery working legislators in the House Business and Labor Committee. And what that means basically is going through the roster, individually calling out each legislator, speaking with them one-on-one, explaining the bill, hearing any questions or concerns that they may have, and then recording where they are on the bill, whether they're a yes or a no or a maybe, so that we can sort of count our votes and understand where we will be going into the hearing.
Gotcha. And this bill would actually, it's a pretty simple idea, but it will allow people to use their own sick leave to care for immediate family members who are sick, ill, or injured. instead of maybe pretending that they were themselves sick to care for that person.
That's right. So it only applies to businesses that already provide sick leave and allows for an employee who's already accrued those benefits to use those benefits to care for a sick or injured family member. So yes, a pretty modest proposal, surprisingly controversial. So stay tuned if you're interested and see what happens in business and labor. It's by no means a sure thing.
Okay, well, that's sort of why we're up here at the Capitol, is kind of pushing the levers where we can, making the arguments, and we really appreciate your work all throughout these 45 days. Thanks for taking some time to be with us, and we'll be following these bills for the next couple of days. Thank you.
See you in week 4.
All right.